There was no thunderclap, no scream, no slam of a door. Just the sound of the refrigerator clicking off and the way my heart stalled in the silence. The day had been painfully ordinary. A Thursday. July. Hot. The kind of day where the air hangs heavy on your chest. I had come home from a client install on the west side, exhausted, sunburned, ready to unwind. I stepped into the house and smelled lavender. Not the candle kind. The soap kind. Someone else's kind. It wasn't my wife's usual scent. Jessica always used sandalwood or citrus. This was sweet, lingering, intimate. I walked into the kitchen, still carrying my laptop bag, and I saw her phone glowing on the counter. Just sitting there, screen lit, unlocked. A message sat wide open like a slap across the mouth. Same time tomorrow? Miss you already. No name. Just a number. But she doesn't use emojis with me. Hasn't in years. We're functional. Practical. Our texts are grocery lists, utility reminders, let the dog out, I'll be late. I stared at it. My hands didn't move. My breath didn't change. I felt like my brain hit a patch of black ice and just slid into some place I didn't recognize. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't make a sound. I just stood there until the screen went dark again like it had never happened. Then I heard her voice. Upstairs. Singing. Something from that playlist she made last fall, the one she titled Wine and Light. The one she only played when she was alone. Or, apparently, not alone. I walked up slow, every step heavier than the last. The door to the guest room was cracked open. Inside, she stood in front of the mirror, twisting her hair up into a clip, wearing the silk pajama set I bought her for our anniversary 3 years ago and which she hadn't worn in over a year. She was humming. Barefoot. Carefree. Like nothing in the world was out of place. I didn't go in. I turned and went to the bedroom. Sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the framed photo of us from Key West. Her in those tortoiseshell sunglasses, holding a frozen drink, smiling like I was the only man on earth. 10 minutes later, she walked in. She kissed the top of my head. Said she was going out to get sushi. Laura's picking me up. The way she said Laura like she knew I'd never question it. Like she counted on me not questioning it. I waited for her to leave. I didn't say a word. When the front door clicked shut, I went back downstairs. The phone was gone. That night, I sat in the dark and did something I hadn't done in years. I opened a bottle of whiskey and poured 2 fingers neat. Not because I needed it, but because I needed clarity. I stared at the glass like it might tell me something I didn't already know. Jessica came back late. Tiptoed in. Thought I was asleep. I heard the shower. Heard the low thud of her robe hitting the floor. Heard her slide into bed without a word. But the moment that sealed it? The next morning, over coffee, she looked me in the eye and said, I think I'm going to take a solo trip next month. Just a weekend. Clear my head. I nodded. She smiled. Then she said, call me tomorrow. And walked out the door. I didn't wait for the sun to set this time. I called my lawyer instead. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there next to her, wide awake, listening to the rhythm of her breathing, so calm, so secure. It made my skin crawl. There's a unique kind of madness that seeps into your brain when the person lying next to you is the one tearing your life apart and they sleep like a baby while you drown in silence. By morning, something inside me had calcified. I wasn't going to ask her anything. I wasn't going to snoop. I wasn't going to play detective in my own house. I was going to play dead. Let her believe I was still the same blind, quiet, too trusting husband she thought she married. That was the game now. She was already dressed when I got downstairs. Tight jeans. Lipstick. The same perfume from yesterday. Lavender again. And she was humming. That same tune. It was like she was trying to twist the knife. I'll be at the cafe all morning, she said, grabbing her keys and tossing back the rest of her coffee. Laura's meeting me for brunch. I smiled. Tell Laura I said hi. That made her pause. Just for a second. A flicker of something. Not guilt, Jessica's not the type. It was more like irritation that I'd even remembered the name. She nodded and left, the door clicking shut behind her like a judge's gavel. I waited 5 minutes, then opened my laptop. The number from the text message was still burned into my brain. I cross-checked it with the bill from our shared phone plan, which I had access to because she never bothered to change the password. The number had called her 12 times in the past week. Never more than 5 minutes. Always between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Just long enough for a whisper and a goodbye. I reverse-searched the number. Burner phone. Of course. But the area code was local. So whoever it was, he wasn't far. That's when I did something I never thought I'd do. I called in a favor from an old college buddy who worked in private security. He owed me from a job I landed him a few years back. I gave him the number. Just give me a name, I said. Nothing more. It took him 3 hours. The name he gave me was Blake Anders. Didn't ring a bell? Then he said he's a trainer. Works at that new gym off Lincoln. Elite Core. Drives a white Dodge Charger. You've probably seen it around. I had. It all came crashing into focus. That gym membership she signed up for 2 months ago. The sudden obsession with fitness. The long sessions and sore muscles that somehow never lined up with the workouts she described. The tan lines. The extra showers. I didn't even have to ask if he was married. I already knew he wasn't. This guy wasn't hiding. He was replacing. That afternoon I followed her. I know. It sounds pathetic. But you have to understand I needed to see it. I needed that last ounce of doubt ripped out of me like a bad tooth. I watched her pull into a strip mall 2 blocks from the cafe she said she was going to. She didn't go inside. She walked around the back and into a side door. 15 minutes later, Blake came out. Shirtless. Grinning. I didn't move. I just sat in my car with the windows up and the AC blasting. Watching. Heart pounding. 48 minutes later, she came back out. Hair up. Same clothes. Different energy. She was glowing. That night, when she walked in the door, I was in the kitchen chopping vegetables for a stir-fry. Calm. Like a man on death row cooking his own final meal. She leaned against the fridge and said, "You're cooking? Well, should I open wine?" I looked up. Sure. Open the Cabernet. She smiled, poured 2 glasses, handed me one, then said it again, same exact words. Call me tomorrow. I took the glass, held it, looked her in the eye. I already did, I said. She froze. Just for a heartbeat. Then she laughed. Ha! But her eyes had already changed. Everything that came after was like watching a building slowly collapse in reverse. I didn't blink. Didn't smile. Didn't fidget. I just held her gaze, feeling the weight of those 4 words settle into the air between us like thick smoke. I already did, I repeated, quieter this time, like the sentence itself was sacred. Jessica's face didn't fall right away. She was too trained for that. She had years of practice, reflexes built on excuses. At first, she laughed again, but it was too sharp now, forced, brittle around the edges. You're being weird, she said, turning back to the counter like we hadn't just crossed a fault line. What does that even mean? Called who? I put the knife down. Not slamming it, just enough for the clink of steel on granite to cut through her words. I called my lawyer. Now the smile finally cracked. Not all the way, just a flicker like a candle guttering before the flame dies. Her hand paused mid-reach for the wine bottle. I watched her shoulders stiffen. What are you talking about? She asked. Still playing dumb. Still trying to drag us back to the surface. I followed you today, I said, voice level. You weren't at the cafe. Her breath caught, shallow and quick. Just once. But that was all I needed. She tried again, pivoting hard into mock offense. Are you serious right now? You're tracking me. I didn't need to. You're sloppy. You parked 2 blocks from where you said you'd be, walked around the back of a building with a man who's been calling you every night for weeks. Are you going through my phone now? Her voice was louder. Defensive. But I could see the cracks widening. Nope. Just read what popped up while you were upstairs humming to yourself. That's when the heat changed. Her mouth opened like she had a monologue ready, but instead of lying, really lying, she made a mistake. She smirked. Okay, she said, her tone dipping cold like someone flipping off a switch. So what? You're suddenly the victim? Like you didn't leave me alone in this marriage? Like I wasn't drowning for years while you buried yourself in work and gadgets and God knows what else. There it was. Her ace. Blame. A deflection so fast it could give you whiplash. I didn't flinch. I had expected that card. I let her speak. You don't get to act like the wounded hero now, she went on. You made me feel invisible for so long, Mark. I tried. I really did. But you were never here. Not really. And Blake, he made me feel like I mattered again. She said his name. Out loud. Like she wanted to wound me with it. Like she was proud. It worked. But not in the way she expected. I just stared at her. Because that was the moment everything solidified. Not just the affair, not just Blake, but who she really was. A woman who chose betrayal and then tried to wear it like armor. A woman who couldn't own her choices without lashing out at mine. You matter. I repeated. Jessica, you matter so much that I've been fighting for this marriage alone while you were playing house with a gym rat. Now she looked cornered. For a flicker of a second, I saw something that might have been shame. But she buried it quick, wrapped herself in cruelty. You want to leave? She said, voice hard now, lips tight. Do it. You're not some great prize, Mark. You think I was the only one drifting? Please. You stopped being a husband a long time ago. I didn't say a word. She stepped closer. You want out? Then get out. But don't pretend you're the saint here. You never saw me. Not once. And with that, she turned her back, poured herself another glass of wine, and walked into the living room like she hadn't just detonated 10 years of shared life. I stood in the kitchen, letting the silence settle, letting the cold hit me. The house felt different now. Smaller. Empty, even though she was still in it. I didn't pack that night. But I didn't sleep either. Because in the morning, I wasn't going to be here. The morning was slow and deliberate, like time was giving me one final warning before everything tipped over. I didn't rush. I didn't speak. I moved through the house like it wasn't mine anymore, like I was borrowing time in a place already full of ghosts. Jessica was asleep. Deep, sprawled across the bed like she hadn't thrown a grenade the night before. Her robe half open, mouth slightly parted, no traces of guilt on her face, just peace. That kind of peace doesn't come from reconciliation. It comes from detachment. She was already gone. Maybe she'd been gone for a long time. I showered. Got dressed. Packed 2 duffels, just the essentials. Clothes, my laptop, a few files from the home office, and a small envelope with copies of bank records I had printed 2 days ago. I didn't slam drawers. I didn't make a scene. The only sound was the quiet buzz of the zipper sliding closed. At 7:42 a.m., I walked out the front door and didn't look back. I didn't go to my brother's. Didn't call a friend. I booked a room at a mid-range hotel with paper-thin walls and no view. The kind of place where people stay when they're between lives. The bed was stiff. The air conditioner clicked like it had a secret to tell. I sat on the edge of the bed holding my phone. My lawyer was expecting a call at 9 o'clock. I had my notes ready. Facts. Dates. Call logs. Text timestamps. A list of shared assets. I even had the name of the gym, Blake Anders, the address of his apartment, and screenshots from the GPS logs my friend had pulled. But before I made the call, I scrolled through her wedding photos. I know I shouldn't have. But I needed to see her face again, the one from before. The version of Jessica that hadn't yet learned how to lie with such ease. There she was, under a string of garden lights, laughing into her wine glass, barefoot on a dock in late summer. Her hand on my chest. Her mouth near my ear. And I saw it, there was love there once. Real. Raw. Maybe even deep. But love without loyalty isn't love. It's theater. It's a trapdoor waiting to open. I made the call. Proceed with the filing, I said. My voice didn't shake. I want a clean split. No drama. But I'm not walking away with nothing. I have documentation. The lawyer was calm, professional. He said we'd start with a notice of intent to separate. Said he'd draw up the first set of documents by the end of the day. Told me to stay put for now. No contact with her unless it was written. I agreed. At 11:16 a.m., Jessica texted me. Where are you? Not funny. I didn't answer. At 12:03, she called. I watched the screen light up. Her name still sat there, unchanged, Jess. I let it ring. She called again. And again. Then came the flood of texts. Mark, what is going on? Did you seriously leave? Can you grow up and talk to me? You're acting insane. The final one. Call me tomorrow. She didn't know I had already burned the bridge she was trying to walk back across. By 2 p.m., I had an email from the lawyer. The process was initiated. The wheels had turned. No more pretending. No more slow poison behind closed doors. But here's the part one didn't expect. At 3:47 p.m., I got a knock on the hotel door. Not from room service. From Jessica. I stood still as the knock echoed again. 3 short taps, then silence. I didn't need to check the peephole, I knew it was her. There's a different kind of weight behind the sound when it's someone who betrayed you. It lands heavier. For a moment, I considered not answering. Just letting her knock until she gave up, went home, and sat with the silence she created. But something in me shifted. Not curiosity, control. I wanted to see what version of Jessica would show up at that door now that the performance was over and the audience had left. I opened it. She stood there in black leggings, a denim jacket thrown over a tank top, her sunglasses pushed up onto her head. No makeup. Her eyes puffy, maybe from crying, maybe from not sleeping. Her mouth was pressed into a thin line, but her stance said everything, defiant, not sorry. So this is where you're hiding, she said, like we were old roommates playing a game of tag. I stepped aside without a word. She walked in like she still had the right. The door shut behind her. The air between us turned to static. She turned to face me, arms crossed. You seriously left without even trying to talk to me? I tried, I said flatly. You just weren't listening. That's not fair. She moved closer, her voice softening. You blindsided me, Mark. I woke up and thought maybe you were at the gym or grabbing coffee, and instead I get ghosted like some one-night stand. I almost laughed. She wanted to talk about being ghosted? You've been disappearing for months, I said. Only difference is I didn't take my body with me. She flinched but recovered quick. So this is it? You're really going to throw away 10 years because I made a mistake? A mistake is tripping over your words. Forgetting a birthday. You planned this, Jessica. You hid it. You had options and you chose him over and over. Her face twisted. Not into shame. Into anger. I needed something, Mark. I was lonely. I was exhausted. I was tired of begging for your attention. You think this was easy for me? You didn't beg, I said, stepping toward her now. You lied. You lied with your mouth, your eyes, your body. You built a second life and tried to keep one toe in this one so you wouldn't lose the safety net. She swallowed hard. It wasn't just about him. It was about me too. I felt seen again. I nodded. And now I see you too. Fully. That's when the mask cracked. Her voice rose. So what, you're perfect? You think you never made mistakes? You think I didn't cry myself to sleep for months while you were buried in your work, barely even looking at me? That's not justification. That's a setup. You chose not to tell me you were unhappy. You chose to find validation in another man instead of in your husband. You don't get to rewrite that. Jessica stepped back like I'd slapped her. But there were no tears. No breakdown. Just that coldness again. She let out a short breath. Fine. If you want a divorce, let's do it. But don't expect me to play the villain in your little martyr story. You already wrote yourself into that role. There was silence. Heavy. Final. Then she looked around the room, gave a bitter half-laugh. Wow. Motel furniture and a microwave. That's what freedom looks like, huh? No, I said, picking up my key card from the nightstand. This is what dignity looks like. She stared at me a second longer, then walked out without another word. I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to. It took exactly 36 hours for the storm to hit. After Jessica left the hotel room, I thought that was it. I truly believed that moment was the final blow, the clean break, the severance of 10 years tangled into one bitter, unforgettable hour. But Jessica never went out quietly. The next day, I got a call from our joint bank. Hi, Mr. Redmond, we noticed some unusual activity on your account. Unusual was one word for it. Jessica had transferred $12,000 from our savings to a separate checking account she just opened in her name. The move wasn't illegal yet, but it was calculated. Fast. Cold. Like she'd been waiting to do it. I didn't panic. I called my lawyer, updated him, and he filed a motion to freeze all non-essential joint accounts until the divorce terms were settled. She'd made the first financial strike. I made the next legal one. But it didn't stop there. That evening, I got a text from my mother. Mark, why is Jessica saying you abandoned her? The next one came from my sister. Did you really walk out without explaining anything to her? She's devastated. Then from my friend Tony. Bro, she's saying you've been emotionally cheating for a year? That true? I stared at the screen. One text after another. One twisted story after another. She was already rebuilding her image, brick by brick, using me as the cracked foundation. The woman who smirked in my hotel room, who said Blake made her feel seen, who called me invisible and walked out like a winner, was now painting herself the victim. She went full spin control. Social media posts in cryptic fonts. Sometimes the one you trust most is the one who breaks you the deepest. Photos of her smiling with friends, a wine glass in hand, the caption, healing isn't linear but it's honest. She was framing it. And framing me. But I didn't respond. I didn't comment. I didn't defend. Instead, I documented. Every message. Every post. Every account withdrawal. Every date, every lie. Quietly. Carefully. Letting her build her case in public while I built mine in court. Then came the letter. 3 pages. Handwritten. Delivered to the hotel front desk in a cream envelope with my name in cursive on the front. Inside was her final attempt to rewrite history in ink. It started with guilt. You were my world once. Then justification. You stopped seeing me, Mark. I had to survive somehow. Then manipulation. If you go through with this, just know it will destroy me. Blake isn't even in my life anymore. It was never about him. That last line sat there like a joke. Like I was supposed to believe she burned down our marriage for someone who didn't matter. But what really stunned me wasn't the lies. It was the signature. She didn't sign it, Jessica. She signed it, the woman you gave up on. No apology. No ownership. Just accusation in cursive. I didn't write back. Instead, I sent the letter to my lawyer. And I moved out of the hotel. Not back to the house. That place wasn't mine anymore. I rented a short-term apartment downtown. No memories. No photographs. No shared drawers. Just 4 walls and a key that only fit my hand. I didn't expect peace. I expected retaliation, noise, maybe even some crocodile tears meant for her audience, but what Jessica did next wasn't just another slap. It was a precision strike meant to humiliate, not just wound. 2 weeks after the letter arrived, after silence and legal filings and my quiet move into the downtown apartment, I got tagged in a post on Facebook. Not by her. By him. Blake Anders. His account was private, but the post was public. And it was deliberate. A photo. Jessica. In his lap. Laughing. Her legs curled under her like a schoolgirl. His arm across her waist. Wine glasses. A background that looked a lot like their gym's rooftop patio. The caption? Sometimes you don't find your person until you're finally honest with yourself. The comments were flooded with congratulations. Friends of his. Some of hers. Mutuals I barely recognized anymore. You two look amazing together. So happy for you both. You deserve this. Real love wins. That last one stung more than I wanted it to. Jessica hadn't just moved on. She had rewritten the entire script. She wasn't the cheating wife now, she was the brave soul who chose herself, found love, and walked away from an emotionally distant husband who didn't see her light. And I was the invisible villain. The gray space in her story. That same day, my lawyer sent me the draft proposal from her legal team. She wanted the house, the furniture, spousal support for 5 years. She even had the gall to request half my business's passive revenue, claiming emotional contribution to my success. I read the document in silence, jaw clenched so tight I could hear my molars grind. She wasn't just done pretending. She was ready to take what she hadn't earned and smile while doing it. I called my lawyer. No negotiation, I said. We go full defense. Drag every receipt, every message, every timestamp. I want this documented to the letter. He agreed. But even with the legal gears grinding forward, what haunted me wasn't the money. Wasn't the lies? It was how quickly someone I loved could become someone I'd never even met. The same woman who used to fall asleep on my chest after long movies. Who used to steal my fries when she said she wasn't hungry. Who once cried in the car on our 2nd anniversary because she said she didn't deserve to be loved that much. Now she was posting photos like I never existed. And somewhere deep down I realized she'd probably been practicing this exit for months. Maybe longer. It wasn't a betrayal by impulse. It was betrayal by design. I was the final scene in her old script and Blake was her curtain call. The courtroom wasn't dramatic like in the movies. No outbursts. No gavel slams. No one shouting objection, like we were in a legal thriller. It was cold. Dry. Clinical. A gray room with beige walls and rows of benches that made even the strongest back ache after 20 minutes. Jessica sat across from me at the petitioner's table, perfectly composed. Hair pinned back, black dress, subtle makeup, the grieving wife aesthetic dialed in with precision. Her lawyer, a tall man in a navy suit with the practiced smirk of someone who'd done this too many times, sat beside her flipping through his notes like we were about to debate parking violations, not the demolition of a decade-long marriage. Me? I wore a navy suit too. No tie. I wanted to look put together, but not like I was on trial. The judge asked questions. My lawyer answered. Jessica's lawyer answered. Then came the financial disclosures. Joint accounts. Property. Assets. And then what Jessica's team labeled as non-financial contributions. The implication was that Jessica had invested emotionally into my business, supported me through late nights, encouraged growth, made sacrifices. They wanted a percentage of the company's value. That's when I handed over the flash drive. Emails. Calendars. A spreadsheet of every weekend she claimed to be working late over the past 9 months, compared with gym logs, GPS data, and timestamps from her second phone number's call records. It wasn't just about proving the affair. It was about disproving contribution. Jessica didn't build my business. She didn't support it. She'd been checked out long before Blake entered the picture. When the evidence was entered into record, her face barely changed. Just a tight jaw. A single blink too slow. But behind the composure, I could see it. She didn't expect a paper trail. Her lawyer leaned over to whisper something, and I watched her lips flatten. Then came the cross. My lawyer was careful. Respectful. Direct. Mrs. Redmond, on the following dates, you stated you were working overnight on campaigns. Would you agree? She nodded. Yes. Can you then explain why your location data places you at 428 Lincoln Avenue, the address of Mr. Anders, on those same evenings? She hesitated. I was visiting a friend. He raised an eyebrow. Multiple times a week for 3 months? Silence. The judge tilted his head slightly. Then, would you consider those visits a marital contribution to the respondent's company? Her lawyer objected. Overruled. She didn't answer. Her jaw tightened again. It was unraveling. The image. The script. The delicate framing of her as the wounded party blurring out like an overexposed photo. We broke for lunch. Jessica passed by me in the hall, eyes cold, lips pursed. Then she said, just loud enough for me to hear. You think this makes you better than me? I didn't flinch. No, I said. It just makes me free. She stared at me for a beat, something flickering in her eyes, anger, maybe regret, maybe just the realization that the narrative was slipping through her fingers like sand. She walked away without a word. That afternoon, the judge denied her request for a percentage of my business. He ordered the house to be sold and the proceeds split. No spousal support. No alimony. The courtroom emptied out like it never happened. Jessica didn't look at me once more before she left. But I watched her walk out those double doors in silence. Not because I wanted to see her go, but because I needed to remember that even the most beautiful lies eventually get walked out on. The first morning I woke up alone in the new apartment felt like standing in the center of a long-forgotten cathedral, echoes of something sacred, but no God left inside. The walls were blank. No photographs. No decorations. Just the steady hum of the fridge and the occasional creak from the pipes. I made coffee in silence, no second mug on the counter, no half-hearted morning kiss from someone halfway out the door. And yet, there was a strange peace in that. The absence of performance. I didn't check her social media anymore. I had blocked Blake. Muted mutual friends. Unsubscribed from the narratives. The courtroom hadn't given me closure, but it had given me distance, and that was more valuable than I realized. The world was still spinning. My business was steady. My inbox was full. Life didn't collapse, it just stopped pretending. But there were moments that still hit hard. Like the first time I saw our old house listed on Zillow. The same living room we once danced in, now staged with fake plants and someone else's furniture. The open house description didn't mention the faint crack in the kitchen tile from where she dropped a wine glass during our third fight. Didn't note the patch of wall we painted together in the middle of the night because we were bored and laughing. Just square footage and natural light. I didn't cry, but something behind my ribs tightened like a thread being pulled. Then, a few days later, I ran into Laura. The Laura. Jessica's supposed alibi through it all. She saw me near the bookstore on 4th, paused. Looked like she wasn't sure if she should say something. Hey. Mark. Laura. I nodded, kept my voice even. She hesitated, then stepped closer. I just wanted to say I didn't know the whole story. I mean, she told me some things. But not all of it. I found out about Blake later. I stayed silent. She made me swear not to tell anyone. Said it was temporary, that she just needed time to think. And was she thinking in his bed or the back of his car? I asked. It wasn't cruel. Just clean. Laura sighed. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't mean much now, but I should have said something. I nodded again. We all make choices. We parted ways without more. That night, I finally opened the last box I had avoided since I moved out. It was full of anniversary cards, movie stubs, little souvenirs from trips we took, the quiet artifacts of a life that once felt permanent. I didn't burn them. Didn't throw them out. I packed them back up, sealed the lid, and slid it under the bed. Not because I wanted to keep them, but because I wasn't ready to pretend they never existed. Healing isn't a movie montage. It's not a new love fixing the last. It's a quiet Tuesday night where you don't think about her name when brushing your teeth. A dinner alone where you don't feel the urge to text someone your plate. A Sunday where silence is just silence, not punishment. I wasn't whole yet, but I was no longer bleeding. It didn't end with fire. It ended with indifference. A few months later, I saw Jessica again. Pure chance. A downtown street fair, of all places. I was browsing a used bookstall when I caught the flash of familiar hair in my peripheral vision. I turned and there she was, holding a smoothie, laughing at something Blake said. He was next to her, sunglasses on, wearing that smug, always a little too tan look like he just walked out of a reality show audition. She didn't see me. Or if she did, she didn't show it. I watched her for exactly 3 seconds. Then I turned back to the books. There was no rage. No sadness. No spike of regret. Just a breath steady and full. And a quiet voice in my head that said, you made it out. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't text a friend. Didn't journal about it. Because by then, Jessica wasn't the villain of my story anymore. She was just a chapter I'd already closed. In the months that followed, things didn't magically get better. But they did get real. I took a weekend trip alone for the first time in years. I cooked more. Started jogging again. I rebuilt my client list. I went to therapy not because I was broken, but because I didn't want to carry any more weight than I had to. And slowly, piece by piece, I started choosing myself again. I stopped asking how she could lie so well. I stopped trying to find meaning in every small betrayal. I stopped replaying the night she said, "Call me tomorrow," like it was some final puzzle piece. Because here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Not every betrayal comes with warning signs. Not every liar stutters. Some betrayals are clean, quiet, and dressed in a smile. But that doesn't make you stupid. It makes you human. We believe because we love. We trust because we choose to. And when that trust is broken, it's not your weakness, it's their signature. So here's my advice. If you feel it in your gut, don't wait for it to burn your life down. If you start dimming your light just to avoid seeing the cracks, flip the switch anyway. If they say, "Call me tomorrow," and something in your soul shifts, listen to it. And if you do walk away, walk all the way. Don't look back for apologies that will never come. Don't wait for them to become the person they pretended to be. Don't hand them the pen and ask them to rewrite your worth. Because healing isn't loud. It's in the quiet moments. Like now writing this, coffee in hand, sunlight on the floor, no ghost left in my chest. Jessica is someone else's problem now. I am no one's fool anymore. And finally, after everything, I am free.